Okay, Mr. Chair, you have a quorum whenever you'd like to start.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the in-person technical committee of the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board. I'm Dan Janicek, Chair of the committee. It's great to see all the members that are here today. Thanks for driving in. For those members joining online, please turn on your cameras during the roll call for attendance as well as voting items. And so at this time, I'll ask Ms. Rebecca Dybel to start the roll call to determine member participation. Rebecca, please.
Good morning. City of Annapolis.
Present.
Anne Arundel County.
Here.
Baltimore City.
Present.
Baltimore County.
Here.
Carroll County. Here. Anyone here from Hartford County this morning? Howard County.
Here.
Indiana County.
Here.
MDOT.
Here.
MDE.
Here.
MDP. MDOT MTA.
Here.
MDOT SHA.
Here.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to start off with the approval of the March minutes. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to review those from the March 5th meeting. And I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Unless there's a change.
I'll second.
Okay, Howard County with David Cookson to approve, second by Anne Arundel. And now we'll vote on the approval of the minutes. Members in support of the minutes, please say aye.
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 Anybody not in support? Okay, approved minutes. Let's move on to the action items. First resolution 24-19. For more information on this resolution that approves the updated UPWP or Unified Planning Work Program budget for FY25, I'll ask Mr. Todd Lang to make a presentation. Todd.
Good morning, everyone. Today, let me grab my sheet real quick. Great. Today, we're asking the technical committee to make its recommendation on resolution 24-19. 20, sorry. 19. This is the update to the fiscal year 2024-2025 Unified Planning Work Program. Trying to make this a little bit easier to understand for the public, so we're calling this the planning budget. So this is the item that we do every single year once we understand how much money is coming from federal highway and FTA. And then we have been talking about this for several months in terms of what specifically we're doing in terms of updating the budget on the second half of this Unified Planning Work Program. So again, we have to meet all of the federal regulations for a metropolitan planning organization. So this is kind of carrying over not only the work that staff is doing, but then adding some focus areas for this upcoming fiscal year. So the total budget that is included within this fiscal year 2025 work program is a little over $10.5 million. BMC staff basically make up about 6.9 million of that amount, and local jurisdictions again get $480,000 as part of this program. Again, we're carrying over that same program that we started last year, where we work with each of the individual jurisdictions to try to find the best fit for a kind of regional project within your planning program. But that does leave about $3.2 million for focus areas. So we've been discussing these over the past couple of months. We've also gone out to a public comment period. That 30-day public review went from February 7th to March 11th. We did receive a number of different comments. We do appreciate the public weighing in on some of these different activities. We did send out the responses that we sent out to the public to each of you by email, so hopefully you've got that inbox. We'll briefly kind of go over the topics that were discussed. Again, there was some appreciation for some of the bicycle pedestrian planning efforts that are within the UPWP, but then urging some additional bike ped planning programs. Also on the transit and safety side, asking us to kind of continue some of the work that's being proposed, but to try to get more in depth as we start moving through the years. Again, we do get the comments that we should be trying to move away from highway expansions, trying to look into things like induced demand, which is when you build a highway, you could potentially start generating additional vehicle miles of travel. We have on our modeling side started to work with some of the tools that were proposed within one of the General Assembly bills. Again, some calculators that are being developed by different agencies throughout the country, trying to figure out how to incorporate those into some of our regional planning efforts. But then also we're having recommendations to support programs that reduce greenhouse gases. There's a number of bills in the General Assembly right now that we're tracking, trying to see some potentially kind of come down into the metropolitan planning organization level. We're not sure exactly how those bills are going to pan out at the end of the day. But again, these are comments that we've received from the public. So the focus areas that were presented to you back in February are the ones that again are being moved forward for the recommendation today. They're somewhat in alphabetical order. So I'll just quickly kind of run through them so you again kind of remember what they look like. Staff support for local discretionary grants. Again, we've heard from a lot of our local jurisdictions the need to try to have kind of on-call support potentially at the regional level for both the application process, but then also potentially some of the early management of this discretionary grants. Continuation of our skills and training support for the LOTS agency. We're doing this through the Transportation Association of Maryland, supporting a lot of their training programs. One in the long-range plan scenario planning process. Again, we're in this kind of period where we can start doing good scenario planning as we're in between cycles for updates of our long-range transportation plan. Another segment of Tapsco Greenway, this one kind of the final segment from Tapsco Light Rail to Cherry Hill. A program to start identifying and building a pipeline for carbon reduction projects and protect projects, but then also looking at potentially prioritizing those. Some safety messaging and outreaching campaigns, specifically with the Orioles, which we're very excited about that partnership. Scoring methodology for bicycle and pedestrian projects, a project we're doing with County Engineers Association on streamlining local project development, delivery, and tracking. Looking at a small amount of money to fund a traffic incident management conference this upcoming year. We've been trying to save up for that for a number of years. Some update to our local tools for both tracking building permits and then our travel demand forecasting. Continuation of the Transportation Land Use Connections Grant, continuation of the Transportation Planning Institute that we're going to be kicking off here in the month of May. And then a transportation needs assessment that was identified through our equity scan. Try to understand how we might be able to kind of gain traction on some of the goals that have been identified in the long-range transportation plan. So that is a quick summary of the Unified Planning Work Program that is being proposed in front of you today. So we are asking for your recommendation for Resolution 24-19.
So I'll ask now for a member to move for approval of Resolution 2419 and a second. Can I have
Not this move.
who moves?
I'll second.
Second, Brian. And does any technical committee member have any questions for Todd or?
Yeah, just the Transportation Planning Institute, a quick overview. I don't recall. So.
Yeah. So this is one of the items where we want to do more training for both BRTB technical committee members on what an MPO is, some of the standard duties of representatives of being an MPO, but then also recognizing that you're getting new staff in the door every day that aren't necessarily fully trained in transportation planning activities. What we're doing is we're standing up an online platform working with AMPO, the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organization. They're going to have some stock courses where people can just log in. So anyone new you send to the tech committee or any of these different subcommittees would automatically get kind of a 101 as what an MPO is and in some of those specific areas. But then we're going to be standing up some specific training courses that are unique and specific to Maryland transportation plan. So that people would be able to kind of at your desk get kind of some training because we know you don't have training budgets.
Okay, what about those who are not staff? For instance, in Annapolis, we do have the Annapolis Transportation Board, which is kind of made up of citizens. Most of them are volunteers, no background in transportation. So I believe with this kind of institute, since it's kind of online platform, it's a good idea to send them an invitation to see who will be interested. Similar to the planning commissioners that most local organizations actually have, because when they do approve plans, transportation is always a big issue. So if they are introduced to those kind of elements in the background, that will be very, very helpful. That will actually increase the significance of this particular program and perhaps in the future expand it.
It's a great idea. And anyone else who has suggestions as to courses you would like to set up or potentially host, we could certainly do this also.
Thank you. Questions here? No? We'll ask if any members of the public have any questions or comments or resolution. If so, would you like to comment in the chat box? And, is anybody in the chat box? No. Okay. Comments there. So we'll now vote on approval of the resolution. We're ready to go with that. To adopt the work program and budget for FY25. Thanks for all the hard work on the staff side for this. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, please.
Annapolis,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
Aye.
Howard County.
Aye.
County.
Aye.
And-
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, okay, we'll move to recommended action item number 2, resolution 2420. For information on this resolution, which sets the disadvantaged business enterprise goal for 2025, FY 2025, we'll ask Mr. Lang to introduce the resolution.
Thank you. Today we're asking the technical committee to recommend move forward again 24-20, the DBE goal for the year 2025. And DBE goals, are kind of built into our program. We do this every single year that we adopt the new unified planning work program. Specifically, the way that our methodology is set up, by a prior resolution, is that we look at the qualifications of different firms being identified within either the Maryland Department of Transportation system or a similar statewide system qualifying for DBE or WB firms. And our methodology for determining the percentage goal that we have is piggybacking off of the Maryland Transportation Secretary's Office planning program, since we are very similar to the work that's being done over at MDOT on the planning side. The goal for the past couple of years remains the same at 26.2 being recommended out of that methodology. Can say that there is a new disparity study going on at MDOT, so we anticipate this to be updated probably next fiscal year. But we can report that the last reported billing period that ended September 30th of last year, we actually had a billing program of 40.6 on the DBE program. So we've been lucky enough to kind of get some good DBE partners in our program. So even though we have a 26.2% goal, we always strive to kind of exceed that, and we've been decided to try to do that fairly recently. But we are asking the technical committee, based upon the methodology, again, defined by M.TSO, to adopt the 26.2 goal for the 2025 Unified Plan Work Program. Reggie?
Just curious, point two.
Oh,
So
point
much
two?
into the
Yeah, we
detail.
actually go all the way, it is a percentage. If you look at the disparity study and the goal setting program, it's pretty far in depth in terms of not only the capabilities of the local DBE programs, but what is potentially available for billing. So we go down to the point.
And this is basically about how much of the funds or the budget that's spent on DBE.
Any questions? We'll ask now if any members of the public have any questions in the chat box.
Sorry.
Do a motion first.
That's okay, at some point.
Just follow my script. Yeah, so I'll have can I have a member make a motion for approval? David.
My role is to second everything.
Brian's gonna second all.
I'm sorry, was it
So-
It was
Steve
Howard
and Brian?
Nanrundle. Howard Nanrundle.
Howard Nanrundle.
Yep, sorry. Mr. Cooks. Now, do we have any members of the public? Okay. Okay, so we'll vote on the approval of the resolution to endorse the 2025 FY 2025 goal for DBE participation. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. Rebecca, can you please read down the
Annapolis,
Aye.
San Joaquin County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
County,
Aye.
Howard County.
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
MDOT.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
The resolution has passed. Now we'll move on to item number 3, recommended action on resolution 2421. This resolution is to consider an amendment to add a new grant for Baltimore City. I'll ask Mr. Keith Bachar to begin the presentation and then turn it over to we're going to turn it over to Albert Engel.
Thank you and good morning, everybody. As Dan mentioned, in resolution 24-21, Baltimore City is requesting to amend the 2024 to 2027 TIP to add funds for the Raised Transit Priority Project. This amendment will add funding to FY24 funds that were allocated in FY23 but were not obligated. This project is scheduled to be presented to the ICG tomorrow to determine the project's conformity status. And although it was in the previous tips and the scope hasn't really changed, so it's not likely that the conformity status is going to change. And as Dan said, Mr. Albert Guiney-Angle will present the details of this project.
Yeah, so this is you can go to the next slide. So this is a project that you're awarded this grant to make the improvements on the blue and orange city link routes, which run from the west side over Woodlawn over the east side over to Essex to add improvements such as bus stop improvements, some dedicated bus lane segments, bus bulbs, and some trend signal priority improvements. So it increased the total cost of the project is about $54 million, which is the awarded amount. We're going to be making, you mentioned, accessibility improvements, amenities, ADA improvements, and overall goals to make the project, or make the blue and orange routes faster and more reliable service. but this is updating the TIP page to reflect executing grant this year. We have been spending money on sort of pre-grant activities, planning and activities of that nature, while working on developing the paper grant agreement with the feds. And then in terms of schedule, we finished up 30% design over the winter. Over the course of this year, we're finishing design phase, and then anticipating construction in 2026 through 2029.
Well, we'll now ask that a member move for approval of resolution 2421 and then a second. And then I have a motion for approval.
Baltimore City seconds.
Okay. I will move. How's that? All right.
No one moved yet?
County moves to approve and a second from Stuart Sirota, Baltimore City. All right. Does any technical committee member have any questions or comments on the resolution?
A quick question. Will this project include construction of transit dedicated lanes?
Yeah, there
So
are
we're adding capacity to the roadway system to add transit.
where we're proposing to add dedicated bus lanes are within the existing curb to curb width. Some cases that's parking lanes, some cases it's travel lanes, depending on it.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess the follow up for the dedicated bus lanes, are they during only the peak period or throughout the service?
It varies segment by segment. They're on the sort of Edmondson Avenue period where there is a lot of demand for parking during overnight hours. The bus lanes would be during daytime only, and then in some of the other areas where there isn't that demand for parking off peak, they use full time bus lanes.
I imagine this project's moving along pretty good. It might be something that would be interesting to come back to the board, give a little more of an overview.
Full presentation.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll now ask if any members of the public have any questions or comments. Do we have anybody step up? No? Okay. We'll now vote to get down here. We'll now vote on the resolution to consider the raise grant. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. And Rebecca, can you please begin with members?
Annapolis,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
York
Aye.
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 Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and I.
Aye.
Thank you.
So item number 4 today is the recommended action on resolution 2422. This resolution introduces 4 projects to the TIP at the request of MTA. And I'm going to ask Mr. Chief Chart. Turn it over to Albert.
Thank you again. As Dan mentioned, in resolution 24-22, MTA is requesting to amend the 2024 to 2027 TIP to add 2 new projects, amend 1 existing project, and reinsert 1 project that was in a previous TIP. I'm just going to go through all 4 of these and then I'll turn it over to Albert. So the first project, the MARC facilities project, is the project that's in the current TIP, and that will increase construction funds in FY24 by $48.16 million. The Kirk bus facility replacement project was in previous TIPs and is now being reinserted as a result of shifting funds from previous years to the year of obligation. The first new project that's being added is the low or no emission Anne Arundel County bus program project, which includes $2.27 million for the purchase of low emission buses. And the second and final project is the Baltimore Penn Station Multimodal Investments Project. And this amendment will add engineering funds in FY24 through 27 and construction funds in FY26 and 27 And that'll provide various improvements in and around Penn Station. Similar to the raised projects, these projects will be presented to the ICG tomorrow to determine their conformity status. And again, I'm going to turn it over to Albert to provide the details of all 4 of these projects.
I'm gonna preface by saying I don't know all the details of all these projects, so it's possible that if someone has a question, I may not be able to answer it. But so for the Mark Facilities project, this is a sort of group project with sort of improvements to Mark facilities in the region, things like station upgrades, maintenance, facility upgrades, track improvements. So as mentioned, it increases the construction in FY 24 by $48 million to a total of about $67 million. The benefits of this project: preventive maintenance, repairs, extend the useful life of the system, and support continued ridership growth. And we're identifying, prioritizing needed repairs to ensure the safety and reliability of the system. And then finally, ensuring the stations are accessible to everyone, including ADA compliance, while safety and maximum amount of occupancy. So this is coming from 5337 city of repair funds, and it's about 38.5 million federal and 9 million and 6 million state money. This is sort of a project that has regular expenditures on various projects, but 2 sort of more significant ones to mention. Bayview Station is 15% design, and we are anticipating the NTP to advance 30% design phase by the end of September of this year. And then Odinson Station is 100% design, and that we're awaiting procurement schedule for advertisement. So for Kirk, this is one of the 4 bus divisions that MCA has. Different types of maintenance and operations for our local bus. So this reinserts the project back into the TIP and adds $8.2 million. And this shift is make sure that we're federal funds are there the year that the funds were obligated. It's $6 million in 5307 money and about $2.2 million in 5339 bus facilities money. And both those have a Fed state split. So the total cost of this project is $168 million. And this project is basically done. It just needs to get wrapped up and closed out. This is supporting, as mentioned, 14 bus routes. And the previous facility was old and could not accommodate modern fleet buses. So this new facility is addressed a lot of the issues and also made the facility more work better with the neighbors because it's inside and the noise levels down. For the buses for Anne Arundel County, they're trying to purchase 4 diesel electric hybrids. This is part of the low-no program that they are planning to transition over the course of several years to a zero emission fleet. And this is coming from the low-no discretionary grant that was awarded for FY 24. So the total is 1.9 million in federal and about 0.4 million matching funds, total about $2.68 million. And then schedule, this is anticipating delivery in 2025-26 and close out by the end of fiscal 26 or in the year, during calendar year 2026. And this is again part of their Anne Arundel County plan to transition to zero emission vehicles and increase resiliency of Anne Arundel County to climate change. Penn Station. Yeah. So this Penn Station project, this is a set of multimodal improvements around Penn Station. The project includes full-time dedicated bus lane on Charles Street, curb extensions on St. Paul, bus stop improvements in the area, real-time signs, pedestrian bicycle improvements, connect to Penn Station from the adjoining streets. If funding is coming from a RAISE grant and a earmark that's being managed as a Chrissy grant for a total of about 14.65 million. The Chrissy grant is about 5 million federal, we do 5 million state match, and the RAISE grant is about 6 million federal and 1.4 state match, and then there's $1 million in private contributions from the development station that's also participating in this project. In terms of schedule, we're hoping for grant agreement to be executed, agreements executed during the summer, and then design through 2026, and construction 2027 through service in 2030. So obviously this is a key transit hub for MTA, connect to Amtrak, connect to MARC train, and also it's a node for a local bus. But also a node for the community, want to be able to accessibly connect from the street to the station. And there's also likely to be a station on future RTP north-south corridor service, whatever it looks like. So this is an opportunity to sort of plan ahead and make some improvements so that we're ready to go when that project comes through. That's it.
All right, a lot of key projects getting approved today. So we'll now ask for a member to approve resolution 22 and then get a second, get a motion for approval.
Good my job. Howard County moves to approve.
Howard County moves to approve, second.
I'll second.
All right, Brian from Anne Arundel. And so we have any technical committee members have any questions or comments on this resolution?
Just a quick comment that some of these are new projects and some of these are just adding additional funds to ongoing projects. But this TIP amendment represents around $250 million in transit investment in transit and rail systems. Just this one TIP amendment.
Most of that is from the Kirk project, which is basically done.
Yeah, but it's shown a pretty significant $250 million investment, you know, just in these 4 projects in front of us today. I mean, it's pretty significant. So. Yeah, good point.
Just out of curiosity, most of them are facilities. However, the one from Anne Arundel County is a procurement of low emission parts. So how is that we combine transit facilities with procurement of parts in one amendment? Or it makes it much easier in terms of the flow of the money?
I mean, they're both considered to be capital expenditures.
Okay.
So yeah, buses are capital.
Yeah, so capital is a catch-all phrase for this.
Yeah, because I mean, they're all separate projects.
Yeah.
So in the TIP though.
Yeah.
It all comes under MTA Transit.
Yeah.
Reason it's all together.
Yeah, all separate projects, but just one resolution, so.
I have a question if I might. For the MARC facilities improvement projects, how did they, and forgive me if I'm not an expert on how those projects originate. Is that something that the state has said, hey, we have these needs, we're gonna do them, have the counties put them in their priority letter? The reason I ask is, as probably know, Hartford County has a couple stops with MARC service. I'm thinking particularly at Edgewood here, we have Aberdeen as well. And not being necessarily the person with the list of all the things we might want to see at those locations. I'm just curious how those facilities improvement projects came about. If it was the state said, hey, we've got ADA issues, we've got these, whatever the case may be, we're going to move forward with these projects, or is it something that the locals have been putting on like #1 on their priority list for a while? I'm just trying to figure out how that came to be. I noticed a lot of the work seems to be south of Baltimore for the MARC service, and of course I'm interested in north too. So
yeah, so the answer as to where the projects come from is kind of all of the above. I mean, so some of them are come from priority letters, some of them come from state identified needs, city to repair needs. Bayview is a sort of legislatively mandated that we come up with design for that, so they come from everywhere. And I mean, I am not that plugged in, take it personally,
That's
to
okay.
Mark, how they developed that list of in Park Station, these particular projects. But
Sure, that's okay. I just know being not an expert on every one of the needs we have at the stops in Harford County, but knowing that we do have some interest needs up there, of course, I have an interest in advocating for those projects as well. I'm trying to learn a little bit more about
And
that.
Aberdeen, as you may know, has gotten
Yes,
a couple of funding, some grants.
well, and Aberdeen, what Aberdeen has going for it is the city of Aberdeen and Phyllis is very, their city, their planning department is very aggressive with their grants. Edgewood doesn't have the benefit of being in a municipality, it's just kind of unincorporated Harford County, which means it's the county's job to advocate for things that need to be done there. I know there are maybe some visions the county has, but I don't know how they've necessarily made it onto a priority letter. So I'm just trying to learn more about the project because there's probably gonna come a day when we may be asking for some stuff too, and this seems similar to that. So just learning about the process. Yeah, appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Is it in a priority letter?
I don't have it in front of me. I'm not sure. Yeah.
It never hurts to include.
Yeah, I know. Our letter feels long enough as it is, but actually, we just sent out a letter in yesterday. So I'm just learning. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Maybe after the south, we go to the north.
Work our way up.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll now ask if there are any members of the public have any questions on this. No? Okay. So we'll now vote on moving these funds, moving these 4 projects to the tip. When your name is read, please indicate aye or nay. And Rebecca, please read down the list of members.
Annapolis,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Aye.
Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Queen Anne's County,
Aye.
and that,
Aye.
thank you.
Okay, this amendment has been approved. We'll move to the BRTB now for consideration for all these approvals today. So we're gonna have an update on UPW activities. I think that's Charlene. You're gonna give an update on the efforts underway to establish a regional bicycle network.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Charlene Mingus, and I'm the project manager for the UPWP project, formerly known as the Vision for a Regional Bike Network. It's been renamed through our steering committee, which it consists of local members and state members, including Steve here. So the new name is the Bikeable Baltimore Region Project. So it's got a tagline, a plan for a safe and connected bike network. So the idea is to identify out of the existing and planned facilities that the locals have identified. We're not creating anything new. It's all based on what the locals have done to identify a network that could be considered regional. This is hopefully going to help with prioritization, applying for grants, and collaboration across jurisdictions. So, as I mentioned, purpose is to develop a regional bike network. We want it to be equitable and connected network that's comfortable for all ages and abilities, from children up. We want it to benefit improved safety, increase equitable options and access to core services and jobs, housing, schools. Also to provide recreational amenities for the community and increase active transportation rates in the region. So we're currently in the existing conditions analysis portion. We've met with our steering committee twice, and we are currently getting ready to invite our advisory committee. So that will consist of stakeholders throughout the community, from nonprofit, community organizations, I would say organizations, public health representatives. We're in the discovery phase right now. We're getting ready to start the engagement phase. We'll meet with the advisory committee, present the information we've shown the steering committee, and then prepare to launch the public outreach phase, which will consist of a number of online components, including a story map, survey, project webpage, as well as a number of in-person public meetings. So we're gonna have a public meeting in every single one of the jurisdictions. And then we're also gonna have at least one virtual meeting, and we've got 2 meetings we're gonna play with and see how we need to use those to reach everybody in the community that we can. So once we do that, we're gonna present the vision, goals, and objectives to the community, get their feedback. We'll also present the analysis on existing conditions. Then, after we do that, we'll take feedback and then identify the regional bike network, and then come back to the steering committee, advisory committee, and then the public again, and then solidify that network. Then identify implementation strategies, including prioritization, high-level costing, some policy recommendations, and so forth. So next slide. So this is the general schedule. It is anticipated to be completed in June 2025. Next slide. So engagement is a huge part of this project. We want to get, feedback from all of our local members, state, and all of our stakeholders in the community. So as I mentioned, we've got our 8 in-person meetings, 3 pop-up / virtual meetings. We'll then have a second public comment phase later, which will have less of the in-person meetings. They will be kind of a more discussion type, and we'll have a virtual meeting with that. We're also doing something which I think is pretty fun. They're called handlebar interviews. So the consultant, and then we're gonna invite BMC staff as well as our steering and advisory committee members to go out and talk to people, get their photo, get some information from them to really get that on the ground perspective. We're doing that high level analysis, but we also want to make sure we're connecting with people individually. We'll also have the interactive story map. We'll have 3 versions and end up with the final version, which we would want to be able to communicate the plan in an understandable and visual way to the community. So current framework is there'll be a vision. We've gotten feedback from the steering committee on that, so we're revising based on that feedback. And then we'll come to the advisory committee and the public with that. There'll also be goals. So those are specific aspirations to help us reach the vision, and then objectives to then reach up toward the goals. So they're more specific, which will tie into performance measures. So we have a transparent process as the years go by to see the progress in the network being implemented. There'll also be criteria. So those are the elements of how you select a regional bike network, and then recommendations, which will include policies and other elements that will tie in. Next slide. So currently we're in the existing conditions analysis. We're doing a demand analysis. So looking where there's most demand of biking. This is kind of measured through different elements, which include like density of employment, density of housing, equity indicators, transit access, a few other elements that they're refining. We're also looking at the existing network and summarizing how many facilities they are, looking at it overlapping with equity indicators in the demand analysis to see if they align. So also looking at equity of vulnerable populations, and then looking at the MDOT level of traffic stress analysis that they've completed. So we've been working closely with the state, and we really appreciate their cooperation with this. We're able to take this analysis that they've done, and I know Queen Anne's County has used it with their bike ped master plan. It's a really great tool and a lot of great data to look at not only which bike facilities are comfortable for people of all ages and abilities, but also what roadways. So you would think of like maybe a small neighborhood road with low speed limits, not many cars, would be considered less stressful, whereas like Key Highway with a lot of cars, higher speed limits would be more stressful and maybe not as comfortable for most people. We'll also do a mode share analysis. So we've got information on the percentage of people who bike, drive alone, drive carpool, and walk and take transit throughout the region, and then for each county. And they're also completing a safety analysis. Through all these elements, they have looked at what the locals have done and the great work the state has done. So one of those big things with the safety analysis is they looked at the vulnerable road user analysis that the state did, and they're incorporating a lot of those elements, including additional analysis. So demand approach, we're going to take, instead of reinventing the wheel, the really great work that the state did with the short trip opportunity areas. So it's based on population and employment density, transit and school coverage, and zero car households. They're also going to include some additional elements that the steering committee considered to be important. So those are going to be parks, recreation areas, green space, equity, and then the existing bike network. And then we're going to update the bike accessibility analysis that the state completed, which looks at the demand for biking and then the amount of biking facilities in the area, and then pinpoints that with this really interesting hexagon visual that will show where there's areas where there's demand but not many facilities. Next slide. So the equity approach will be using BMC's developed vulnerable populations index, while also looking at federal indicators, including disadvantaged communities. We're also looking at Justice 40. This will hopefully help with when grants are done for federal grants programs. Next one. And then, as I mentioned, the safety approach, this visual is from the state's 2050 Maryland statewide bike ped master plan. We're referring to that and to the vulnerable road user assessment, analyzing crash data. Ours is a little bit newer, it's 2019 to 2023. So we'll have a heat map of the crashes, different statistics, and then a crash severity index map. And next slide. So that's kind of a quick overview of everything. It's a big project. It's really exciting. And if you guys have any feedback, you're always welcome to reach out as well.
That's a lot of work. But you know, what an opportunity. There's so many opportunities here. So that'd be nice. All the counties are involved and their engineers and planners are involved to start thinking about using this as a platform to get grants and work with their elected officials. Wow. Forward.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Oh, very great graphics. That's amazing how on the screen.
Yeah. That's something we've really emphasized, is that you can do all this technical analysis, but if you're not presenting it in a way that's understandable by the general community, it's not really that useful. So we're gonna have some other elements where there'll be like little fact sheets for each county and for the region. So those can be used, and we'll have a presentation at the end that can be adapted for each jurisdiction. So we can continue to talk about this work as we go on.
Mr. Chair, there's at least a hand up from a member of the audience.
Sure. We have a question from Daniel or comment.
Hi there. Yes. Daniel Pascal with the East Coast Greenway Alliance. Thank you for the great presentation, Charlene. It's exciting to see this project move forward. I wanted to just get a point of clarification around how it relates, or maybe, in the demand analysis or some of the other parts of how you kind of assess the different corridors, how pedestrian connectivity kind of interrelates. I know it's a bike specific project, but just given the, the multimodal overlap between the two, especially if you think about the users in between, whether they're micro mobility, scooters, and kind of everything on that spectrum, how does that relate? And especially thinking about trails and the upcoming trail plan update that MDOT specified in their statewide plan, how does that all kind of come together as part of this?
As you mentioned, based on what BRTB and the tech committee approved with this project, it is a bike master plan for the region, but the facilities that are going to be considered are also, a number of them are multimodal, so they'll also be used by pedestrians. We also, with the mode share analysis, it also includes, of course, pedestrians, and then identification of trips 1 mile or less, which tend to be walking trips, and then they'll look at like 1 to 3 mile, and then 3 to 6, which are more biking trips. So those are kind of the main ways that'll be incorporated. And Daniel, you're actually going to be getting an invitation to the advisory committee soon, so you'll get to dig into this more during that meeting as well.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate that opportunity.
Charlene.
Thank you all so much.
Oh, we have another update this week. New task getting underway to address EV charging in high density areas, and Ms. Anna Marshall is going to give us an overview of that.
Do you want to advance your slides, Anna, or just present the way Charlene did?
Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Marshall. I'm an environmental planner at BMC and also the project manager for this project we're working on called Electric Vehicle Community Charging Hubs in the Baltimore region. And I'm just going to give an update on the status of the project. So our project background and purpose. So we are trying to provide guidance to our jurisdictions to help implement electric vehicle charging projects. And we want to prioritize providing charging to people who live in high density residential areas. And this is, the reason is because electric vehicle adoption is on the rise in Maryland with recent legislation such as the Advanced Clean Cars 2 Act, which requires manufacturers to continuously increase the share of cars they sell to be zero emission up to 100% by 2035, which is not terribly far away. So currently about 80% of all EV charging takes place at home. And this was a statistic from the US Department of Energy. And also the people who live in these high density neighborhoods might not have access to a driveway or a garage to be able to charge their car at home. And so that's why they need access to public chargers in a community environment. So the project overview. So our goal here, we are working with Kittleson as our project consultant lead, and Hummingbird and AutoFlex Fleet are the sub-consultants with electric vehicle like technical knowledge, and Hummingbird is helping with developing fact sheets and their design of the project. And so the goal is to develop a plan to provide electric vehicle charging opportunities for residents in high density areas as mentioned. And the plan components are to have recommendations on how to implement EV chargers in these areas, and also provide fact sheets and other informational materials that the steering committee members can share with colleagues and elected officials and other people working in this field, and also to find priority locations for community charging hubs, which leads me into my next slide, what are community charging hubs? So they are designated locations near high density employment centers or multifamily housing where community members can reliably charge their electric vehicles and also access additional transportation options such as rideshare, transit, micromobility options while their vehicles are charging. And some key characteristics of community charging hubs are that they include reliable charging infrastructure, they're convenient to these high density multifamily housing, apartments, employment centers, or other destinations like shopping centers or community centers. And they provide access to transit or other services. And they are inclusive in public space with integrated wayfinding, travel information, and payment options. And they could also be located with sites such as restrooms or a convenience store. And they should be equitably distributed throughout communities. So our schedule, we have 3 steering committee meetings, and the first one actually took place on Thursday. And this one was a discussion about the project overview, kind of what we're doing today, and initial thoughts and challenges from our members related to EV charging in their jurisdictions. Meeting 2 will be in July, and that will be to kind of go over the locations that were picked and prioritized. And the consultant's going to be putting together a memo about this. And then the 3rd meeting will be in the fall, and that will kind of be going over some feedback and engagement opportunities. And as part of the steering committee's task is to help us determine focus area meeting topics, and those will take place in the summer. And again, it'll help our members communicate with elected officials, colleagues, community members about EV charging. And just from an initial poll from our first meeting on Thursday, our steering committee members were interested in funding opportunities as a potential topic, as well as codes and permitting and how to expedite that process in local jurisdictions. And finally, our next steps. So the consultant's going to work with steering committee members individually to determine the needs and challenges and discuss the potential locations of these community charging hubs. And then the focus area meeting topics will be developed based on feedback. And I think that is it. Yeah. And yeah, so if you're interested in, thank you for the members who have recommended steering committee members. And I know Steve and Brian, if you have an interest, we can also work with you to find the location and include a member in the steering committee and work with you too. But yeah, please email me if you have any questions.
So I think as Anna said, we know the state and other parties are working on other aspects of electric vehicle charging stations, particularly along major interstates and other key highways. So we spent some time and landed on the idea that, you know, folks that have garages or driveways, not that it's necessarily easy for them, but they have an opportunity to charge. So we decided to focus this on the 1 million households, I don't know, I'm guessing, in the region that exist that don't have those opportunities to plug in. And in the end, so I know Baltimore City and Baltimore County have parking authorities. They may take on some public charging, but they're definitely going to be private sector partners. There's a lot of ways this could play out. We're really excited by this consulting team. They're working well together, and they're going to help provide information to all of you that will help you navigate how to provide charging opportunities to communities. So we're hoping this works out. If any of you need to know who the steering committee members are from your jurisdiction, Anna can help you. If you don't have members and you don't have time, you know, we've got people from lots of different agencies. They're not tech committee members. But if you need some help, we can share information with you. We would like to try to do a prototype location in your jurisdiction if you have the time to think about it.
Just a personal comment on the design phase. I think we are all aware of the fact that most car manufacturers are adopting the Tesla charging system. So here we are in terms of the design. The state is doing it along major corridors. So to what extent are we thinking of kind of looking into standardization of the design so that it doesn't matter where you live, where you drive to, when you go, you don't have any issues charging your vehicle?
Right, I think that is that a good question and something that could be included in one of the focus area topics. And I'm pretty sure that the federal government with the NEVI program has some standardization options, at least along the alternative fuel corridors. And yeah, but that's definitely an important consideration for local jurisdiction public charging.
Would this house be in terms of charging? I did hear about payment options, which means that obviously this is not free, right? Is it going to be subsidized based upon households' income? Or something that the steering committee can look into?
Yeah, not sure at this moment, but that I can work with the steering committee.
But I say that because in some jurisdiction, we do have free charging stations. And the issues that people have is that if you can afford to buy a $60,000 electric car, why should you get a free charging? and the taxpayers actually pay for the energy. So these are some, and I did hear about the equity. So if you're looking at this, the whole idea of equity should run through the design all the way to implementation. Make sure that we address the issue. I have heard a lot of complaints about those who can't afford to buy electric vehicle, but they can afford to buy a small Toyota Corolla gasoline, and they struggle even to buy gasoline for the vehicles. And here you are, you can get a free electricity to charge your electric vehicle. So these are some of the things we want to just make sure that they don't become pitfalls as you move forward.
Right, yeah, thank you, that's a good point. We can look into that.
Yeah, I know a lot of the states are looking into that, because this is such a new thing. The states take them a couple of years to get the NEVI funding out even. And then, we had Tesla come out with a new type of charger, and so they're trying to, there's the industry standardization piece, and then there's the zoning aspect, and then there's the equity aspect, and the cost of charging. And I know at the national level, yeah, there's the states are all looking at that. So it looks like your program is looking more at, like I say, focusing on these multifamily developments and other areas. I'm interested just to understand how some of the new developments, how they're incorporating it, like in the city. And we've seen some big developments go up recently. There's a big development occurring across the highway here. I'm wondering how they're incorporating. So that'd be interesting to find out.
I know that there's legislation in Maryland now that EV parking in new developments has to incorporate EV ready spaces. And so that's why we were focusing on existing multifamily housing.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough to figure out.
Right.
Yeah, they've got parking, they got approved parking. Yeah, you gotta change the site plan, go back to the planning board to get your parking changed, to take out 10 spaces for EV charging, and yeah, it's gonna be a long process to get those places.
Which means at the local level in terms of zoning and development approval, that must change to accommodate the new state laws. And even if you don't have the state laws in place, the municipalities can actually take the initiative to make provision for that, especially for multifamily high-density units.
Any other comments, questions?
So what's the local participation? Is that strong? How many getting participation from all of the counties?
For our steering committee?
Yeah.
We currently have all the jurisdictions. We're missing Anne Arundel County and Queen Anne's County. So that's why the participation is open to anyone.
Ask people, I'm always sure that they actually respond to you guys, so.
Thank you,
sure they
yes.
did.
That's why maybe let's share the current steering committee list with tech committee after this.
Sure, yeah.
And then when we get to the focus groups, for instance, if we do one on permitting and code enforcement, that could be to that specific group in your jurisdictions. But if we do another one on funding, it might be someone else. So once the steering committee lands on what are the areas you all need the most help with, we'll make sure you're aware of that, and we try to get the right people at the table.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Yep. So I think Todd and Lane's gonna give us a quick update too on the AMPO conference and the federal certification process.
Yes, let me get back to sharing the right screen. Regardless, yeah, you don't need a screen for this one. So every 4 years, Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration, along with EPA, come in and do basically an audit of the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So we're scheduled for this. Coming up here, there's going to be a 30-day public comment period that starts in just a few days. The federal partners are actually going to be in our office May 1st and May 2nd, kind of talking with staff. making sure we're meeting all the federal regulations. There is going to be a public meeting on the evening of May 1st, starting at 6:30, where we're going to be asking the public to come out or sign in virtually to give their comments. But this is what's officially known as the federal certification process for the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They said we go through this every 4 years. There will be a final report that comes from our federal partners kind of identifying areas that you think that we're doing good at as part of a metropolitan planning organization, but then also areas that we might be able to improve. So a couple different categories in which some of the recommendations come in. There's commendations, which are good items, recommendations, things we need to work on. And then if there's anything that needs to be done immediately, they're corrective actions. Now, luckily, we haven't had corrective actions as far as I know, decades that we can go back in. So we're not anticipating any of those, but it is a good time to just check in and make sure that we're meeting all the federal regulations. So you'll probably hear about some of this in the background. We're anticipating the report probably will come out in the May, June, July period, depending on our federal partners are a little busy right now, so we're trying to make sure we get through the process. A couple other items. We have a new staff member, Mary Sultan is a new multimodal planner, so you'll be kind of seeing her as part of our process. Feel free to, she's working with a lot of our staff here and bike ped, transit items, a couple other areas, so welcome staff.
Thank you.
And then the most important item is that our UPWP does include some funding again to try to carry forward some of our BRTB and tech committee members to the AMPO annual conference to kind of learn what other regions are doing, bring back some good planning ideas. This year's conference is September 24th through the 27th in Salt Lake City, Utah. So we will be reaching out, kind of trying to gauge interest in terms of who might be able to attend agencies. And September 24th through the 27th in Salt Lake City, Utah. We're building a good program. Hopefully any questions from the tech? Back to Regina to see if there's anything else. Okay, we'll turn it back to the chair to kind of close out the meeting.
So the next technical committee meeting will be on Tuesday, May 7th. This will be a virtual meeting. I don't see any other business comes to the committee, so I'll ask for a motion and a second to close the meeting.
Second, I will say.
And Brian is the first second man.
Get the change there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And we just closed, but just so you know, the BRTB meeting this month is in person